Hello tubes. So recently, nothing to do with philosophy anymore, smug posh Oliver Thorne from Adolescent Brainwash Tube offered an argument as to why behind the curve liberals are infected with bigotry and transphobia, due apparently to their dangerously unwoke opinion that trans people ought to be free to pursue their own gender preference because there's no good reason why they shouldn't. Now, I'm sure all you good people can see that this is the naked hatred of mere tolerance, as opposed to the well-signalled virtue of uncritical acceptance, the literally Hitlerish vice of not explicitly affirming the immediate reality of trans people as trans people demand it be witnessed. Which is, of course, if you like your job, a reprehensible failure to listen and believe, which neither makes adequate pledge to punish the non-believer, nor displays sufficient deference to the incorrigible lived experience of the sacred sufferer. Thorne argues that because liberalism is not necessarily committed in full to authentic trans ontology, it suffers from radical epistemic skepticism, from a ceaseless asking of "how do you know?", which is itself complicit in bigotry, being a dastardly plot to defer and delay access to due rights. So much so that there is apparently no possible situation in which one can be a tolerant, open-minded liberal, like your dad, without also denying the proper existence of trans people. On the other hand, trans acceptance is, by its very definition, the practice of accepting that trans people exist when and how trans people say they do, so that there is also no possible situation in which one can be trans accepting whilst denying that trans people exist. Thorne then claims that we are either liberals or we are trans accepting, and that there is no possible condition in which we are neither, and that it follows therefore that we either deny or confirm the existence of trans people. A choice which is promptly moralised by the introduction of ludicrously high stakes, for it seems that if we were to deny or merely disagree with the received account of trans existence, mass deaths would surely follow, though it's never made explicit how, whilst if we accept that account in full, a heavenly reign of self-actualisation shall settle gently upon previously benighted earth. The gist, should you be in any doubt, is that we are supposed to choose the latter option over the former, lest we literally be sprinkling the Zyklon pellets down the chimney pipes ourselves. Did all those videos about Pascal's wager in the late noughties and early tens sink in? Do you remember when atheism rather than liberalism was eternal scepticism struggling to deny and delay our recognition of the Lord? When the choice was between nihilistic atheism or full-blown fundamentalism, or when a different moral salvation or damnation was the inescapable outcome? You ought to, because Thorne has basically just repackaged the same apologia in the name of a different fundamentalism. So let's take it apart. When it comes to dealing with the dilemma that Thorne presents, it's possible to shoot the bull in the forehead. We can deny its second disjunctive premise by pointing out that it's possible that some, like orthodox religious conservatives, are neither liberal in their attitudes nor accepting of the existence of trans people. As a mere possibility, regardless of one's attitudes towards orthodox religious conservatism, this is sufficient to refute Thorne's argument. There is, however, another way, one more palatable to those who are progressively minded but have not yet surrendered reason to righteousness. For one may grab the left horn of Thorne's dilemma, the first conjoined conditional, by providing counterexamples wherein it is possible to be liberal without denying that trans people exist, or by acknowledging their existence as trans people without agreeing in every detail of what exactly that existence supposedly entails. We may also, contrary to the introductory phase to Thorne's first premise, be liberal whilst rejecting eternal epistemic scepticism. It's possible, I find, to hold that each should be free to pursue their own conception of the good with regards to their gender expression, whilst also being amenable to Hume's ideas about the limits of scepticism. The argument that Thorne presents is thereby not cogent, and we, the liberal dads, therefore remain at liberty to ignore both its conclusion and its subsequent attempt at moral blackmail. To finish, I'd like to introduce the idea of Yer Kid. Yer Kid is usually young, though not always. More often than not, they are middle class or above. Yer Kid need not be your child, nor, thankfully, mine, but some mothers, alas, do have them. In the past, like the 60s, Yer Kid may have wanted to hang out with the Mason family. In the 70s to sign up for Jim Jones's merry sojourn to Guyana, or in the 80s to join the Moonies or our old friends Scientology. Nevertheless, despite Yer Kid's shifting enthusiasms over time, certain tropes echo down through or out of the annals of Yer Kid. Phrases like, "It's not a religion, it's philosophy," or "It's not a cult because it encourages us to question the status quo," or the eternal, "It's about emancipation, not control." These are pretty much the rationalisations that Thorne has consistently offered since he decided to abandon critical thinking and go over to the self-righteous side of the Force, which suggests that in having now abandoned actual philosophy for the public exhibition of virtuous attitudes, Yer Kid Thorne has firmly established himself as another link in the historical chain of privileged nincompoops who are down with drinking the Kool-Aid and don't care who they groom into joining them. Twat. Thank you for listening.